Hi everyone, welcome to the NCBOLD on-demand version of Engagement Smackdown, putting your students in the ring of active learning. So for this particular presentation or webinar style format, I have a ton of resources and templates for you. So you will want to go to the presentation and follow along as we go throughout our time together. So you can get to the presentation by scanning that QR code if it's convenient or easy for you to put on your phone. You can also go to the bit.ly, which is bit.ly/NCBOLD all uppercase and Engagement Smackdown all lowercase. So please take a minute, join the presentation with us. All right, while you're joining the presentation, I'm going to speak to our alignment of our digital learning competencies. So if you're in the educator strand and you're a teacher in the classroom, we're in the designer digital learning competency, which is 2.5.B. We're trying to design authentic active learning activities that align with your content area standards. A lot of these strategies that I'm going to show you are going to really maximize that active deep learning and use digital tools and other resources to really support that. Coaches is really similar to that in the sense that you're just supporting teachers getting into that active deep learning in their classrooms. And then if you're an educational leader, we're in the empowering leader strand where you're trying to inspire a culture of innovation and collaboration that allows the time and space to explore and experiment with digital tools. This presentation is definitely going to get into it, and collaboration is actually one of the indicators of active learning. So there's a couple of ways that you can take notes for this session however you'd like. I do have a Google form where I'm going to have you interact and track your responses. But if you like having your own notes, your own space to kind of record what's going on, there is a note taker here that you can click on. It'll take you to something that looks like this. It's a Canva template. Just make sure you click Use Template for New Design. And the top will allow you to go through our engagement Smackdown. So I've got 8 strategies for you in kind of like a March Madness format. And the bottom of the notes template, I'll let you take notes on each one of the 8 strategies. So by the end of this session, we're going to collaborate asynchronously in this webinar style on demand. That's how you're going to collaborate with each other through the Google form. You'll be able to see each other's responses and kind of see the ideas that you're generating. Hopefully you gain 3 to 5 new strategies, maybe more towards the 8. Upwards of 8 new strategies that you can use with your content standards to promote active learning. And a lot of these strategies do explore digital tools that can support these. Another really important piece of information for this presentation specifically is there's 2 specific icons that you're going to see show up a lot. So the first one is this black book looking icon. That means there's a resource for this active learning strategy. It either takes you to a blog post where teachers are talking about how they use it, or it's a one-pager that explains what the strategy is, but there's a resource for that strategy if you see that button. If you see the button that looks like a piece of paper being held up, that's because there's a template for this active learning strategy. So a lot of these have templates that you can just make a copy of and manipulate on your own. If you see that icon, that means there's a template that goes with that strategy. So as I mentioned throughout this presentation, especially if you're watching this on demand, you're going to use this active learning Smackdown Google Forms. So you can go ahead and have it open if you want to have it open, but I'm going to prompt you throughout the presentation to circle back to this Google form. In this Google form, not only are you going to choose your favorites and elevate your favorites throughout your March Madness bracket, but you're also going to share some ideas you have for using these particular strategies with your content area. Once everyone has submitted the Google form, you'll be able to see the collaborative ideas that you guys are coming up with on this Google Sheet. And this Google Sheet I'll let you see tons and tons of ideas around the same thing. So the more people that participate this on demand, the more you'll see ideas in here populate. And so there's already some ideas in there that you can check out, but please feel free to use that Google form to collaborate and share ideas with each other. All right, on to the presentation. So we're going to start with the indicators of active learning. I actually think there are 5 indicators of active learning that are gamification, movement, collaboration, critical thinking, and student choice. Student choice is the only one that we're not going to get into in our Smackdown style format. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 2 strategies per indicator, and you're going to elevate your favorite one for each indicator. So I want you to stop and take a moment. You don't necessarily need to put this information anywhere, but I want you to think about why you chose this session specifically, or what it is about active learning that interests you. Because active learning can mean so many different things to so many different people. And so when you think of active learning, you may think gamification, but your colleague might think critical thinking. And so we're going to try to hit each of those areas, but just think, what does active learning mean to you? Why were you particularly interested in this session? All right, so the first area that we're going to start in is we're actually going to start with critical thinking. In the bottom right hand corner here, we're going to do caption this versus card sort. So I'm going to explain these 2 strategies to you, and then you're going to elevate whichever your favorite one was. All right, so caption this. Remember our buttons. We've got a resource button and a template. So there's tons of templates for this kind of idea of caption this. And there's also a really good resource here from Ditch That Textbook for the caption this idea. So caption this has 3 different variations. Picture this, annotate this, and caption this. So I'm going to open the picture this template. These templates are actually available for you to create something on your own and post on our collaborative Padlet. So please feel free to interact with our on-demand webinar in that way. But I'm going to show you each of these 3 templates to show you the variations of caption this. All right, so the first one we have is picture this. So picture this is when you give the students some text and then you're trying to have them find an image that best supports the text and be able to explain why. So if you're participating in this one, just click use template for new design. I chose to use Canva as a digital tool to support the picture this idea, because Canva, if students are in Canva, is a really easy way for students to find pictures and images. They even have the AI image generator built within Canva. So Canva is just super easy to find and use images. So the text that I'm providing to you guys and posing to you guys is the quote, "Tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn." And that quote is by Ben Franklin. So it says, what does Ben Franklin mean in this moment? Find a picture that goes with this caption and then explain your thinking in the speaker notes. So if I were to actually do this with students, I would have them find an image that I think best represents the quote and put in the speaker notes explaining why. Why is this image the best image that they could find out of all of them? How does it support the text? So picture this takes text and the students try to match it with an image. If you choose to participate in this one, go ahead and screenshot what your results are and post it in our Padlet. So like I said, I do have a collaborative Padlet for us to participate in on demand. So go ahead and pop it into this Padlet under picture this. You can see some of the ones that were already created in Canva that are super creative with that idea of picture this. So yeah, feel free to collaborate with us. All right, the next version of caption this is annotate this. So annotate this is where you're giving the students an image and you are asking them to annotate or produce text that goes with it. Now this is going to force you to make a copy of a Google drawing. I already have a million copies of this, so I'm not going to make a copy right now. But it is going to prompt you to make a copy if you're participating in this. So the prompt that I'm posing is active learning, and I'm asking you to fill in the 3 text boxes based on your knowledge with active learning. So what kind of text would you put here? knowing that this text box is pointing to this image? What kind of text would you put here, knowing that this text box is pointing to this image? And then what would you put here, knowing that this text box is posting to this as it relates to active learning? So you would annotate, so to speak, this image and then screenshot or download your results as an image and post it on our Padlet once again. Okay, so annotate this is kind of the opposite in terms of the students have an image. They're just trying to supplement what's going on with the image with text. All of these get into critical thinking though, because they have to critically think about the connections between the text and the images, regardless of which way we're going with that. And so the last one is caption this. Think of caption this as more of like a thought bubble if you have actual people in the image. So the last one that I have for you is an active, maybe not an active, but definitely a classroom. And you're going to try to fill in the thought bubble of captioning what is going on with the thought process in this image. So it says choose how you want to caption the image as it relates to active learning. You could either choose to think about what are the students thinking and fill in what you think the students are thinking in the thought bubble. You could choose to post about what you think the teacher is thinking in the thought bubble, or maybe you could even make a suggestion what you think would help make the teacher create a more active learning environment. You can see the students are in a math classroom and they're like, I don't know what's going on. All right, so if you did choose to participate in this one, you would hit File, Download as an image, and upload your image to the Padlet, or you could also just screenshot the image and post it on our Padlet. All right, so before I move off of this idea of caption this, don't forget about the resources. There's a really great resource on Ditch That Textbook that shows you some content-specific example that you could really think about how you can create this kind of deep critical thinking with this idea in your content area. So here's some ELA content examples, social studies example, and then even a math example that has a screenshot of a worked out math problem, and the kids are having to annotate what's going on step by step in the problem. So really great content examples in that resource. And then also there's a lot of templates on Ditch That Textbook. You can also choose any of the 3 templates that I provided to you. You could easily manipulate these templates with your own content, or you could go to the Ditch That Textbook library. All right, our last critical thinking area is called card sorts. So for card sorts, there's a couple of different ways that you can facilitate this, either digital or non-digital. But regardless of if you facilitate it digital or non-digital, the emphasis on this activity is that when you have the kids sort ideas or people or events or vocabulary or keywords or topics, don't restrict how they group these items together. Okay, so you're going to give the kids a bunch of different words, ideas, items, and they're going to think critically about what words they could group together and why. If you don't have a set answer key that's like, hey, these words go together, and it's wrong if you don't put them together. If you don't have an answer key like that, it actually promotes more critical thinking because they're thinking about connections that make sense to them, and that's actually promoting that information to go into the long-term memory. Okay, so if you did have physical note cards, you would maybe give each group of students like 10 note cards. They would write a different word on each note card, and they would try to group the note cards in a way that makes sense. So maybe they grouped apple and something else that's red, clown nose together because those were both red items. So it could be words, it could be pictures. The idea is that they're trying to categorize the information that they're learning about. Even if the point of your lesson is not to categorize something, the fact that you're making them categorize something is what moves that information into the long-term memory. If you use a spreadsheet, if you do this digitally, you could use a spreadsheet. So I'll show you what this spreadsheet looks like. So I had a bunch of different words populated on this spreadsheet that have to do with active learning environment. Was from a previous session where we brainstormed some words that dealt with active learning together. And so we took words that are in the top area, and in the bottom area, we try to put those words into categories. So we didn't have category titles. We came up with these category titles. So we made a category for communicating, and we put things like think, pair, share, campfire partners, student discussion, partners or small groups under the category of communicating. So you can provide the students with the spreadsheets where you put words or images on the top of the spreadsheet, and then in partners or groups or pairs, have them try to categorize the words in a way that makes sense to them. A really cool extension of this activity is to do like a gallery walk and have groups look at how other groups group the words and see if they could like guess what they think a category title is from another group. So that's kind of a cool extension. But I do have some resources for this idea. There's a one-pager that explains this entire strategy of card sorts. So it takes you step by step of what you can do to facilitate this activity. And then if you like the spreadsheet example, you can take that spreadsheet template and just manipulate it to your content area. All right, so now it's time for us to pause. You can see if we click on the word active learning Smackdown, it's going to take you to this Google form. So the first thing that I want you to do is, we were just in the critical thinking, which is actually the last option on the Google form. So if you scroll down all the way to the bottom of the Google form, you're going to pick which critical thinking strategy you liked more. Caption this or card sorts. So if you like the idea of card sorts, you're going to choose card sorts. And then take a minute to think about what are some ideas you have for using critical thinking with your content area. So go ahead and pause the video if you need to. Fill in that box before you keep moving on in the webinar. All right, the next active learning indicator that we're going into is we are going into the collaboration strand. And so for the collaboration strand, we're not going to be able to do this particular activity in a virtual setting, but I am still going to explain the idea to you. So this idea is called peanut butter and jelly partners, and really it's just a glorified turn and talk. But why peanut butter and jelly partners is super effective is because it provides a little bit more structure to that turn and talk time. So you can see if I were to start this peanut butter and jelly timer, I'm going to go ahead and present this. If I were to start this peanut butter and jelly timer, when jelly is on the screen, only jelly can talk. When the timer switches to peanut butter, then only peanut butter can talk. And so the timer just gives like maybe around 30 seconds for jelly, around 30 seconds for peanut butter. But if you partner kids up and just ask them to turn and talk, sometimes one partner might dominate the conversation or they don't know where to start. Peanut butter and jelly partners just provides a little tiny bit more structure to that idea. So lots of resources for peanut butter and jelly partners on the next slide. If you like that idea of using a peanut butter and jelly timer, you can steal my peanut butter and jelly timer, and it's very easy to manipulate. Okay, so if you click on that template and you click use template for new design, in Canva, it's really easy to adjust and kind of manipulate this timer. So you can see my first peanut butter is 20 seconds. You could just extend peanut butter if you wanted them to be able to talk longer. Or if you didn't want to switch between peanut butter and jelly 2 or 3 times like I do, you could just delete these slides or duplicate them if you want peanut butter and jelly to talk more. Okay, so real easy to manipulate that template. And then last but not least, there is a resource here that takes you to some session resources for hacking group work. Connie Hamilton has some really, really, really good resources for how to like enhance that partner talk time. So if you go to the 17 tweaks that make a big difference in group work, blog, and podcast, that's a great place to start. She has a ton of resources on this idea of turn and talk. All right, our last collaboration activity is called Vocab Power Grid. So Vocab Power Grid, here is an explanation of what Vocab Power Grid is. So if you need to know what the strategy is, it actually has some templates on here too. I also provide you with a template. All right, so for Vocab Power Grid, you're going to partner students up, and it definitely will get them talking. So you can see if I were to actually have the ability to facilitate this with you online, I would partner you guys up. And partner A would be looking at these words. So partner A would be looking at gorilla, chef, volcano, library, diamond, and jungle. You would be trying to think of clues to get your partner to say those words without actually saying the word. So for example, for gorilla, I might say it's in the monkey family. You can see them at a zoo. King Kong, like any kind of clues like that. And hopefully my partner says gorilla. Okay, so this template kind of allows them to think about what their clues might be before they actually play the game first. Now, partner B gets a totally different template. So partner B is looking at words like butterfly, rocket, parachute, museum, astronaut, piano. And partner B is trying to do the same thing, though. They're trying to think of clues to get their partner to guess that word without saying that word. And you just take turns. You set a timer for maybe 45 seconds to a minute, and it works just like the game show where you can say and try to get your partner to guess whatever word. You don't necessarily have to start with number one, but you're trying to get them to guess all the words in the time that you provide, and then you stop and switch partners. So because that's kind of a structured game too, it's real easy to get the partners to collaborate in that way. All right, so Vocab Power Grid and Peanut Butter and Jelly partners, we're going to stop and share your ideas for the collaboration strand too. So the collaboration strand is the third one down. If you liked the idea of Vocab Power Grid, it's super easy to facilitate that in the classroom, not a lot of prep. Go ahead, click Vocab Power Grid, or if you liked the idea of Peanut Butter and Jelly partners and you just want to project that timer to tweak your turn and talk time, you can click that, but go ahead and fill in some ideas you have for using collaboration with your content area. Pause the webinar if you need to before we move on to our last 4 strategies. All right, our next area, we're moving into gamification. So the first thing that we're going to stop and visit with gamification is this fast and curious protocol. So this fast and curious protocol is how you can use data in a meaningful way when you play online games like quizzes, Kahoot, Gimkit, any of those kind of platforms and programs. This fast and curious protocol is perfect for. So when you think about your content area, think about something in your content area that your kids need to know that's like basic foundational information and is quick. Because vocabulary is great for this, or like in a math classroom, maybe they're looking at graphs and just identifying something very quickly on a graph. Think about like basic foundational skills, because the way that the protocol is designed is it's designed that the students only have 3 minutes to complete your quizzes, your Gimkit, your Kahoot, whatever it is that you give them. Then you pull up the data and you look for the most missed question. whatever the most missed question was, you address that with the students, and you only take 1 minute to address the most missed questions. So if you can only address one of the most missed questions in 60 seconds, that's it. That's all you get is 60 seconds of direct instruction. And then you have them play the same exact game over again for 3 more minutes. So the entire protocol itself only takes 7 minutes, but the intent with the protocol is that repetition is actually not a bad thing. When it comes to something like this, students need to see something 28 times with REM sleep in between for it to move into their long-term memory. So the idea is the more they do these repetitions, the more you're seeing their score increase and the class average increase. So I always had the students record their individual score, and then I would record the class average too and see if we could keep beating our class average. You could definitely make this like daily routine as either part of your warm-up or exit ticket. The purpose of the protocol is that you would keep doing this protocol with the same quizzes or same Kahoot or same Gimkit and keep doing it over again until you get the class average to 93%. And what's going to happen, what you'll notice is your most missed question will start to change because they'll start to remember what you're saying during that 60 seconds of direct instruction. So a new most missed question will pop up for you to address. And it's just a quick minute for you to address those misconceptions. So Fast and Curious is just a really good way to use something that you probably already use. And don't forget, there is a resource. So there's a YouTube video that shows and explains this protocol to fidelity. It's real quick and easy to do with your traditional Kahoots, quizzes, Gimkit, Bookit, all of those things. All right, and then our last gamification strategy is called Connect 4. You could easily do this with tic-tac-toe. You could do this with the dots game. You could insert really any game here. But basically, you would give the students task cards that have content area questions on them, and you would partner the students up. So I would pick a task card from the pile, and I would read it to my partner and try to have my partner answer the question. I would see the answer on my card, which is okay because it's not my turn to practice. It's my turn to facilitate the question with my partner. I'd read the question to my partner, and if my partner gets it right, on the task card itself, it says which column they can put their game piece. Okay, so if I open up this kind of task card template and show you what a task card looks like, and you can feel free to use this template, but you can see one of the tasks I would have you do is draw a picture of what an active learning classroom looks like. If you did successfully draw a picture of what an active learning classroom looks like, then you get to put your Connect 4 chip in column 1. Okay, so I have a resource for you, this website here, that you could use to play Connect 4. You could also definitely use the physical games if you have some teacher supply request list and request a bunch of Connect 4 games. But this digital website works good too. You would choose 2-player mode. And then again, if that were my task card, I would drop, and I got my task card right, I would go ahead and drop my chip in the number 1 area. And then we would switch. So my partner would read a task card to me. I would try to complete that question or that task. And then I would get to drop my Connect 4 chip wherever it tells me to. So if you go into this template, there's a bunch of creative ways that it tells them they can put their chips. Like sometimes the template has multiple areas that they could put it in. Like this one has 4, 3, or 7. This one says any column but the first column. So the more you change it up, the more fun it makes it for them. And they just try to get Connect 4. So the first partner that gets Connect 4 wins, but the task card kind of adds a little extra twist. They can only put their chips wherever their completed task card is telling them to go. So definitely easy to insert that with content. All right, so that brings us to the end of the gamification strand. So if you liked Connect 4, you're going to place your marker on Connect 4. If you liked the tweak of Fast and Curious to your traditional quizzes Kahoot Gimkit, choose that one, and then explain some ideas you have for using gamification in your content area. Go ahead and pause this video if you need to pause before we go to our last strand. All right, last but not least, our final strand is the movement strand. I love both of these movement strategies. They're easy to insert with content areas too. So the first one we're going to talk about is Team Quiz Hustle. So this resource explains exactly what Team Quiz Hustle is. Okay, so first thing you're going to do is you're going to designate at least 4 stations in the classroom. You just really need a sign, okay? The next thing that you're going to do is create physical activity cards that you're going to put on your signs at each station. So let me show you what an example of that looks like. If we go to the Team Quiz Hustle digital template, and I go to station 1, so you can see if I had this sign at station 1, it's telling the students to stretch for 15 seconds. So there's all kinds of possibilities that you could put. You could have them do a TikTok dance for 15 seconds. You could have them play a sport for 15 seconds. You could have them do jumping jacks for 15 seconds, clap for 15 seconds, march in place. You know, possibilities are endless with what you have them do in terms of the movement. But it's important that they do a movement first before they look at the content question. Okay, so say my group is starting at station 1 and we stretch for 15 seconds, we're completed with our stretch. We get to flip the paper over and actually read the content area question. So if you were to actually do this with me, you would be trying to answer North Carolina is home to the oldest public university in the U.S. What is the name of the university and what year did it first open? Okay, so if you're in my group, we're going to guess what we think the answer is, and then an answer key is going to be posted around the room somewhere. So I'm going to send one person from my group to the answer key to check and see if we got the answer key right. You could also make the answer key be you as the teacher, and they have to come to you to check their answer. However you want to facilitate that is fine. But if we got the answer wrong, the important part is that we have to do the movement again. So we have to stretch for 15 more seconds before we can go to the next station. And so you just have multiple stations set up with multiple movements, multiple content areas, questions, and it really gets the kids up and moving. The kids love this activity. I do this with my high school students all the time. High schoolers love it and they can totally handle it. It's important that when you set up your stations that you always leave one station open to start with. So if I have 6 stations, then I only want to have 5 groups of students, because I don't know why it works out, but it works out every time that as long as you leave one station open to start the game with, there's always the next station for them to go to. There's always one available that they haven't done yet. So as long as you leave one open at the beginning, you're good to finish this strategy out. So there's a digital template here for this strategy. Honestly, this one works really good if you post these as signs in the classroom though, rather than have them just open up a Google Slides and do it digitally. But that's Team Quiz Hustle. And then our last movement one is called Think, Move, Share. This one's really easy in terms of being a low prep activity. So for this particular one, students just need a piece of paper. You're going to give them a piece of paper and you're going to set a timer for 1 or 2 minutes, and you're going to have them write down as much as they remember about the content for 1 or 2 minutes. When the timer goes off, have them stop. And you're going to actually have them switch colors. So if they were writing in a black pen, have them switch to a red pen. And so the next part of the activity is they're going to go search and find new information. So they're going to leave their paper at their seat. They're going to get up and they're going to go find a new piece of information that they didn't already write down. So they're going to go look at other students' papers. Once they find a piece of new information, They're going to return to their paper and add that new piece of information in the different color. The reason why switching colors is helpful is because you can see where their thinking stopped and when they had to get help to continue their thinking, especially if you were to collect these papers. But this little bit of movement facilitation allows them to get up and go look at what other people are doing or saying or thinking without actually talking. It's just purely movement. All right, so that brings us, oh, and don't forget, there's a resource for that. So if you need to know how to do that particular activity, you can open up that resource. It's a one-pager that shows you step-by-step how to facilitate it. All right, so we completed all 8 active learning strategies. So you're going to go to the Google form, go to the movement one, pick which movement one was your favorite, and then say some ideas you have for using movement with your content area. Once you've completed that, you're going to hit next, and then you're going to keep elevating your favorites. Okay, so I think it should let me go on. Yep. You're going to keep choosing what your favorites are to finish out your bracket. Okay, so the next page is your final 4. So you're going to pick your favorite out of these 4 and your favorite out of these 4. And then on the last page, you'll pick your final favorite strategy that you want to implement this school year. So vocab power grid was your favorite, and that's when you want to focus on implementing this school year. You're going to hit submit. And then once you get to the end of the form will actually send you your bracket in an email. So check your email, you'll see the bracket, and it'll give you a little space to further lesson plan with how to implement this strategy in your classroom. So I'm not sure if I mentioned this at the beginning, but I'm Caty Carmendy. I'm an instructional coach at Mooresville High School, and I'm always here if you need anything. Okay, so my email is just Caitlin Carmendy, and I'll make sure I put my email right here. You can email me at any time with questions. But I enjoyed going through these active learning strategies with you, even though it was webinar style. Feel free to reach out if you need anything and get your students in the ring of active learning.